Hey guys, today we got something cool. We picked up the Losi Lasernut. It's a 10 scale 4-wheel drive rock buggy. It runs on 4S and it's supposed to be really durable. Now, I haven't really had one of these in my collection, so this is kind of new, but what I've seen of this car is it will handle just about everything. So today we're going to get it out of the box. We're going to go over what comes in the box. We're going to take a good look at the car, and then we're going to take it out and we are going to test it. Once we test it, we'll give you our thoughts and we'll ask our 4 questions. Is it fun? Was it worth the money? Is it durable? And how does it stack up? So hang in there, guys. We'll get it on the bench and we'll pull this thing open. All right, so let's get this thing unboxed. Oh, nice. Nice. Manual, tool packet. This one comes with batteries. Radio box, and looks like we've got and there it is, the Losi Lasernut. Now this is supposed to be a really durable car, and I'm fairly impressed with the look of it right off the bat. So underneath here, we've got a stretched chassis over the regular Tenacity platform, and it's made out of a T6061 aluminum, which is supposed to be a lot stronger. Now the look of the car is beautiful. I like the layout, and this is a scale representation of the true car. So let's set this aside for a moment, and let's go over what comes in the box. First off, this one came with batteries for the transmitter, which is unusual. Usually you don't get those. In this packet here, we have our toolkit. We've got another pinion here, and we've got the instruction manual. Pretty simple, straightforward. I understand that the other pinion in here is for if you want to run this car at 3S, because this is a 3 or 4S car. It's geared out of the box at 4S. But if you change this pinion, it'll run a little faster on 3S without overheating the motor. That aside, let's see what kind of radio comes with this thing. Oh yeah. So this one comes with the DX3. And the DX3 is a pretty good radio. It's got AVC on it, which is the vehicle control. Basically, it's a gyro. You've got braking control here. You've got your trims for your throttle and steering on those two. On the backside, reversing for the throttle and the steering. And it's got a nice feature that a lot of the Spectrum radios carry, which is 50%, 75%, or 100% on the radio. So you can slow the car down if you hand it to a buddy or if you're just learning. Also, these 4 dots up here, those dots there indicate the battery level, but only if you're using Spectrum Smart batteries in the car. To get deeper into the car, however, there's one nice feature that I really like. Beside the look, the tires, they're big. They're like 2¼ inches tall. They're great big tires. One thing that's kind of neat is these arms here, adding scale realism, run the sway bar through the body. So it's built up on the top, which is kind of nice. It's protected by the tire. Also, on the front of the vehicle, you've got 3 sets of LEDs. You've got a bar light on the top, and I understand, I haven't plugged it in yet, but I understand that one's white. And then you've got 2 pods down here, and those are supposed to be amber. But one of the neat features of this car is you pull these two pins, and these are just hood pins, and I love the tethers, like so, and access granted. You get right inside the car, just like that. You have access to everything inside. And what you'll notice, let's see if I can get a good view of this, inside the body, it's all framework. It's all framework. So this is a really rigid piece up top here. The body panels simply screw to this. It's not one piece, it's multiple pieces, but this gives a lot more strength to the upper part of the car. And there's a little plug right here, so if you do need to take the body off, you just undo the plug. You don't have to undo any of the lighting or anything. Take the body off, put it back on when you're ready, plug that back in, and your lights are functioning. Okay, so let's get you down inside this car some, and I'll show you what's inside. Okay, so there's several nice features that you'll find inside here. You do have a really good servo in here. This one is supposed to be in pretty good shape. I don't know yet. I just got the car. However, I did notice that the radio's receiver is exposed, and I'm not sure whether that's going to be okay to get wet. It may, since it's exposed, it may be a problem, and I may have to add an external radio box, but we'll find out as time goes on. In the motor position here, we have a 1900 kV. It's on the 540 can design, so it's smaller than the 8 scale motors. It does have a Spectra Firma speed control, and this is a 4S speed control, and this one is 130 amps. So this is set up right now, straight out of the box, to run at 4S, and that's nice. It does have a center differential, a rear differential, and a front differential to add control, so it allows you to have nimble control. I wouldn't think locking these up would be a good idea for a racer, but we'll see how it handles this way, and maybe that's something I will adjust in the future. Another thing I've noticed is the antenna lead is exposed, and if you look in here, there's an antenna whip right there. So I suppose we are supposed to install that ourselves to put the antenna up. I have no idea why they didn't do that from the factory, but it should have been done from there. Now, if you take a good look at the tires on this, and close this down here, take a good look at the tires on this. These are nice, and they're a crawler style tire, but they're a lot thicker than your average crawler, and that's probably because of the speed and power this car has, but they are still fairly supple. And I haven't noticed whether or not, and it doesn't look like it, but it doesn't look like these are vented from the outside, which is, in my opinion, a bad thing. So before we take this out and run it, I will take the wheels off, tape over the inside, and vent the outside to keep any debris from building up inside the tire and unbalancing the car. Other than that, everything looks pretty good to go. I do like the features here. And if you can see this in here, there's a little rubber hose right here, and that hose attaches to the back of the helmet to give realism to the driver. Now what that is supposed to be their breathing system so that they can breathe without any dirt and debris as they're racing down the track. Very nice, very slick. So let's get this thing out and let's see what it can do. Oh, don't fall down. Don't fall down. Dude, don't fall down. Okay, guys, so we got the Lasernut out and we're going to run it around out here and give it a full test. Take a look at this. So we've got some pretty good hillside there to play with. We've got some rocks. We've got all kinds of things to make happen. We're going to take and punish this car, and this is it. The Losi Lasernut, and it is an impressive little vehicle. So we're going to pound it and we're going to make things happen. This is what's going on. So here we go. First run. It's pretty quick. Dude, you gotta dig this, man. Watch this. Oh. That fucking thing is brutal. Oh. There, we got it. Uh-oh. That sounds like differential to me, dude. Might that be a tire? Center diff. Dig this. Dude.
Just out of adjustment or much?
No, it's toast. All right, guys, there you go. The Losi Lasernut. Now, this is a 10-skill four-wheel drive car, and it was a lot of fun to play with. And there's, I really like the styling of it. It's a cool looking car. It's well designed, and I'm really happy to be back with Losi. I raced Losi for decades, and it was fun. I'm not saying I was a great driver or anything, but that's the brand I ran, and I had a good time doing it, and it feels good to finally get back into it with Losi and see that they are still in the game and they are designing things really well. So the car's not perfect, however. We did run into an issue with it, and of course we weren't getting big and brutal with this on this test. We were doing a first run test, and this is to see what the average user would run into having a car like this. And the issue we did run into was the center differential. Now, the center differential, I put one battery in it, it ran about maybe 10 minutes and it blew the center diff. Now, the center differential in this car is pretty easy to access. You can get right into it just as easy as you can. There's one screw back here. There is a plug to undo if you want to get the body off. It doesn't have to come off, but you can get it off if you need to. There are 5 screws up front, and then when you get underneath it, there are 4 screws here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. You pull those screws and everything comes out in your hand. It's pretty simple to work on, and taking it apart is just like every other differential. You got 4 screws that you pop loose, the differential comes apart, and you can see what the problem is inside. And the problem was real. When I got in there, the outer 2 gears, the big ones that go inside the edges of the differential, those were in great condition. I gave them a good inspection and there wasn't anything wrong with those, but you could see evidence of mistreatment on the planetaries, and there's 4 of those little planetaries in there that run around those bigger gears. And those were wearing and they were clicking. It wasn't set right. In other words, I think it was shimmed improperly, or these are man-made machined parts, and there is a possibility that I got one that was just not right to the tolerances. That doesn't matter. It's all the same. Whenever you get into this game, you're going to have parts that fail, and it's not usual for a center diff like that to fail, but it does happen. I've lost several of them in my Arma cars. I've lost them in the Traxxas cars. It's just part of the game. So I don't hold that against the car, really. I went ahead and rebuilt it. I put some new planetaries in there, and I threw another one in there, another battery that is, and I was running 4S on both because this is a 3 or 4S car, and I wanted to see what it was capable of. So with 4S in it, what I did discover is it made about 10 minutes on the second battery, and it scratched the center differential again. Started clicking, and then it was clicking a lot, and I knew it was going to completely destroy it, so I stopped there. I brought it back, took it apart, had another look at it, and the same thing was happening inside. So on this one, I went ahead and I put new gears in it, and I changed the shimming, brought them together a little bit more. But since I was in there and I knew I'd come back to it, I went ahead and I locked it down. Now I put some really stiff material in there, and it's not completely, well, it is, but it's locked now. I mean, it's locked, but since I have a really dense material in there, if you hit something hard, it will allow it to slip a little bit, but under standard power with the motor, it's going to drive the front and rear wheels the same. So the same power goes to both. It'll give you more scratch, more hole shot when you take off, and for me, it made it a lot more fun to play with. I don't like it when I punch the throttle and it sits. These lighten up a little bit, and then all the power goes to the front. It spins these out. The tires grow up in size. That's letting you know that you're losing the power to the rear wheels and transferring it to the front, and you're wasting all that energy at the front of the car. So this rectifies that. Also, while I was in there, I went ahead and got into the rear differential, and I stiffened it a little bit. It's still open. See, it still spins just like a normal open one would, but it's got a bit more resistance in it, so when you get into looser stuff and pin it, it will work like posi, and it'll help it come around. It really didn't need that, but that's just something I like to do to my cars. I like the way it makes them a little less controllable. It gives them a little more power. It makes them look a little more squirrely, and that just works for me. So I like it that way. Other than that, I went ahead and I messed with the car. I ran it through whatever. I jumped it, water, whatever, and we had no failures. The only failure in the whole car was the center differential. We ran it on 3S and 4S, and it held up equally well to both. So one thing that's really cool about this, take a look at those. Those swing arms, those are really well designed, front and rear. And what's cool about them is, on these swing arms, this one will flip over and mount on that side. In the rear, this one will flip over and mount over there. What that means is you can buy one replacement arm for the front, buy one replacement arm for the rear, keep them in your toolbox, and if you break one, it doesn't matter what side it is, you can put it back on the car and be up and running without having to buy a pair. And the problem with buying pairs is, if you're running in a certain area and you come by a post, for example, and the post is on the outside, 9 times out of 10 you're going to take this arm out. If you buy a pair, you break this a few times, you're going to have 3 or 4 extra left arms in your toolbox that odds are you're never going to use. Now you can buy one, put it on either side, and it saves you a lot of money. You know, it really feels good to get back with Losi. I raced Losi for years, and you know, I really enjoyed racing with them. But those cars, by today's standards, seem like they're made of glass. The parts are small, light, fragile. The car is super fast and nimble. But if you come together with a car, usually one of you is going to the pits broken. By today's standards, this would mob one of the older cars, and the older car would pay every time. However, they're still an absolute blast to play with. Let's take a quick look at this. So this is, of course, the Lasernut. And what I have right here is a Losi XXX NT. Now this is a nitro car, and it's 10th scale, right? 10th scale. Now have a closer look. Those are both 10th scale. Check this out. Read that on the box. 10th scale. Okay, all right, I can work with that. So, the Losi XXX NT 10th scale car, easily 3 inches shorter than the Lasernut. Okay, that being said, let's do this. Okay, 10th scale, 8th scale. The Lasernut's still bigger. 10th scale. Okay, let's take that up a notch. So we're going to set these up side by side, wheelbase for wheelbase. Look at that. That much longer than that one. All right, so this is the Arrma Creighton EXB. It's got Mojave wheels on it, but other than that, that's what it is. We're going to line up the tires back to back. There we go. The Lasernut's longer. 10th scale. 8th scale, 8th scale. And the biggest car there is a 10th scale car. How's that work? I don't know, but it works for me, and I'll explain why. This is one of my smaller cars. I like bigger cars. They're more like machines than cars, than toys. You know, it's more of a machine. So this is an 8th scale car. This is a 10th scale car, and usually 10th scale cars feel like toys. They're small, they're light, they bounce over rocks, and they just look insignificant in comparison to the bigger cars. The EXB, on the other hand, it's just about the right size to pound through stuff and look cool doing it. However, you'll notice the Mojave tires here are smaller than the other ones on the Lasernut. These have bigger tires than the Mojave. It's longer than the EXB, and it absolutely dwarfs the Typhon. So that's unusual. I don't know why they would market it that way, but they did, and I think I won on that count because I like bigger cars. When I thought about buying a 10 scale car, I really didn't know what to think, because the smaller ones, they don't really speak to me the way the bigger cars do. Now, when I had this on the counter, I didn't have an 8 scaler to compare it to. I thought it was pretty significant for a 10 scale car, and it is. It really is. It feels, and actually size-wise, it's more of an 8 scaler than a 10 scaler, so I won on that count. So let's get into our 4 questions. Question 1, is this thing fun to play with? Yes, absolutely. This is an absolute blast to play with. It handles good, it's surprisingly nimble, and of course, being a rock racer, it goes up hillsides like they're not even there. It takes hillsides in a way that you'd swear it was going to roll over, but it won't. Now, still, if you get in an offset situation or you come into a corner too fast, just like the Mojave, it'll cartwheel and tumble. I'm not saying it won't do that, but it's a lot more nimble than I gave it credit for when I put it on the ground. So is this thing fun? It is fun, and it is surprising. Question 2, is the thing durable? Yeah, it's durable. It's taken everything I could throw at it. Of course, like I said, we're not going big. We're not trying to break it. We're running it the way most people would run it when they get it, although we do jump it and we run into stuff that we probably shouldn't. And we fully test it, and it broke nothing. The center differential, I am convinced it was manufactured incorrectly. Not a big deal, an easy change out, or lock it down and you're good to go. So is it durable? Yes. Question 3, is it worth the money? Well, okay, as always, that's very, very subjective. You know, if you're tight for money in your situation, then this is going to be a pretty expensive car. It's not $150 you can throw for your kid to play with. You know, you'll spend that in batteries and chargers to get it up and running if you don't already own that equipment. So this is 3 or 4S. It's fun on 3S. It is absolutely terrifying on 4S when it goes ripping past you, because it is a really fast car. Now, the thing is, this thing runs about half the cost of, say, an X-Max. So if you're comparing it to the larger cars, this one's affordable. However, if money's tight, and this is something you'll have to decide for yourself, this might be a little expensive, but you get what you pay for. In my opinion, it's worth the money. And finally, question number 4, how does this car stack up to the rest of the cars in my collection? Well, you know, I'd have to say this is probably almost dead center middle for me. You know, it's very cool, it's fun to play with. It's one I'll take out on a fairly regular basis. However, I do have other cars in my collection that speak to me just a little bit more. I love the way the UDR rides. I love the way the X-Max pounds through everything. I love the way that the Creighton jumps and looks in the air and how it handles and how durable it is. I could go on about each one's different aspects. You know, what's really cool about the Limitless? It's terrifying when it goes by at high speeds. It's just awesome. The way the Felony runs, it's just a brutal, skidding mess that is so much fun, and it's so off the chain. Nothing compares to those cars, so it's really hard to put this in a category with those. However, if you take it by the measure of which car am I going to grab today? Will I take this one? Well, it only takes 1 battery to run it. You don't have to have 2, so there's that advantage. It's small enough, it'll fit right in the trunk of the car. You can throw a couple cars in with it, so if you're going to take something small, like take the car out and you got a few in the trunk, this one's small enough to actually fit in there with all of its equipment and not monopolize the space. If you take the X-Max, for example, clunk, your trunk's full because it's so big. It's like the DBXL-E. That one is enormous, you know, and there's a video out for that one too. But that one's enormous, and I was luckily able to get it in the trunk of the car. So I almost have to take the truck every time I play with that one. So this one, convenience, yes, it's very good. It's fun to play with, it's fast, it's nimble, it does pretty well on all of the surfaces we've run it on so far, and there will be a brutal review coming up for this one, but we're gonna have to beat the crap out of this car first. So that'll be a little later date, but it is coming. We also have the X-Max video coming too for the brutal review on that one. So this one, I would probably put it midway up the stack. It's one I'll play with on the regular, but it's not one of my favorites. I really am glad I own it, and I will use it, and I do have a good time with it, so there's that. So let's go over the ratings for this car as far as it goes for today. So the car itself, let's talk about durability. Durability, you know, on a scale from 1 to 10, I would give this one a 9 because, you know, the problem with the differential in the center can happen to any of them. Like I said, you can lose a differential in any car. And if you got a malformed part or one that was turned just a little different than the other parts, it'll fail. And all you have to do is replace it with one and build one that's, you know, not gonna fail, and you're good to go. Did anything else break on the car? No, nothing else broke. It got beat up, it rolled over, it trashed, I hit water, I ran it through snow. I hit all kinds of things with this car, and it is unbroken. So Losi is able to make a pretty tough truck. So 9 out of 10 for durability. As far as the cost goes, let's talk about cost one more time just for a moment. This thing is relatively affordable, yet it's still expensive depending on your wallet. If you've got some money, and of course, you know, I'm not a rich guy here. I still work for a living, and I have to go out and purchase these myself. And it's tight for me to do so. However, this is something I really love doing. The videos is only a bonus. I'd do this even if the videos didn't exist. But what's cool about unboxing these is I get to share it with you, and I get to show you what I learn. And as I dig these things out of the box, like I say, I feel like a 10-year-old all over again, and you get to share that excitement. And maybe you can learn something about the car before you decide to go out and get one. The idea of these videos is to actually help you in the long run. Yes, it's exciting for me, but if I can help you understand the car before you buy it, you'll have that much advantage over it. So this one, is it worth the money? I'd give it 7 out of 10. Yes, it's a higher end car, but it is a little bit expensive for what you get. And now for the car's overall rating. And what I mean is, how does this stack up? What we did with it, all the weather conditions, it was cold out. You know, I don't think we broke probably 40 degrees any of the times we were out with it. Cold, brittle plastic, how it ran on 3S, 4S, the radio. And we didn't address the radio. The radio in this thing is really good. We didn't run out of range anywhere. The response is quick. It's a major upgrade to what Arrma was putting out previously. So the radio is awesome. I would give this car, all things considered, I'd give this one 9 out of 10, which is a damn good score for me. Had I broke a few things, had I lost a wheel, had I had things come apart, had I had things not function, it would definitely lower the rating on this car. However, everything worked with the exception of the diff. So 9 out of 10. Hey guys, I'm AJ with AJ Jam Studios, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. It means more to us than you could possibly know. So until next time, keep bashing, guys.